As Tory Lanez recovers in a hospital after a prison stabbing attack, his father and supporters gathered today to demand his release.
The former rapper was convicted of shooting Meg Thee Stallion. Fox 7's Christy Fajardo tells us about the claim of new evidence.
Bringing it to light now was made necessary by the events of this week.
Just days after rapper Tory Lanez, also known as Daystar Peterson, was attacked in prison, his attorneys are calling on Governor Newsom to pardon or commute his sentence, insisting they have new evidence Lanez didn't shoot superstar Meg Thee Stallion, but it was instead her former best friend, Kelsey Harris. And they say Harris's one-time bodyguard, Bradley James, was spurred by conscience to come forward.
That's crazy, yo. You heard? My man Tory Lanez did not shoot Megan. I already knew this. The evidence already pointed that he was innocent. I don't know what went down in court. Money talk, I guess, because no gunpowder or nothing of that nature was on Tory Lanez's hands or nothing. But gunpowder was on Kelsey, Megan's friend, and witness was there telling us that they saw Megan and Kelsey arguing, fighting. This is crazy, yo. We knew this all along, ladies and gentlemen. We knew this all along. I don't know what takes so long for all this to come out. This is crazy and insane, my people. You heard? New evidence. This ain't no new evidence. We all knew this a long time ago. It wasn't no gunpowder on Tory Lanez's hands, and it was gunpowder on Kelsey's. Witness seeing Kelsey and Megan fighting, arguing. This is crazy and insane. Money is got to be behind all this. Somebody paid the prosecutor and the judges off to prison Tory Lanez. Ever since Tory Lanez found out how to make his own money in the record business, the record label, Roc Nation, all of them was trying to get him, and I guess they got him. As soon as the new evidence dropped, they stabbed him up trying to take his life in prison. This is crazy and insane, but we got it for y'all. We got all the new evidence, we got all the statements, all the video clips. I want y'all to check this out. Make sure y'all like, make sure y'all share this video out. Get y'all chips, get y'all popcorn, get whatever y'all need to get comfy. Put y'all legs up and check out the facts.
Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was witness to the conversation Miss Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody.
Walter Roberts says the statement aligns with another witness who saw 2 women fighting. Lanez is serving a 10-year sentence after being convicted of shooting Stallion in the Hollywood Hills back in 2020. The singer testified against Lanez and in an op-ed wrote, quote, "Even as a victim, I have been met with skepticism and judgment. We didn't hear back from Stallion's attorney and couldn't reach Harris for comment." Lanez's lawyers say they've had the new evidence for months and were waiting on the appeals court to rule, but went public after he was stabbed in prison.
He was stabbed 14 times.
The rapper's father, Sunstar Peterson, says his son is recovering remarkably well, but recounted the story Lanez told him.
And I quote, "Dad, I thought it was my last. And having made my peace with God, I said, okay, God, is this how it's supposed to end for me?"
Here, some really, really compelling new evidence that you've never heard before. Our legal team will explain all of that to you. We will have updates on Tory Lanez, Mr. Peterson, on how he's doing. It's really sad to see the situation that he's in, and we think it's time, enough is enough. It's time to bring the brother home. So with that, I would like to bring up our lead consultant, Mr. Walter Roberts.
Good morning. We are here today to bring to your attention some information Unite the People believes is exculpatory in Mr. Daystar Peterson's case, professionally known as Tory Lanez. Recently, we've been made aware that a member of the media, Mr. Gianno Caldwell, was working on an op-ed for the New York Post regarding Mr. Peterson's innocence. During his work on that op-ed, he became aware of some information in Unite the People's possession regarding a statement that was given to Unite the People by someone with information relevant to that case. The New York Post recently reached out to the prior district attorney, George Gascon, Megan Pete and her representatives, and Kelsey Harris and her representatives. The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representatives with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell. Unite the People represents Daystar Peterson in his appellate process. We filed an appellate brief and a writ of habeas corpus on his behalf. The district attorney's office has already responded. The case is fully briefed. We're just waiting for the appellate court's decision. We were willing to wait for the appellate process to play out. But given that brutal, unprovoked attack, we felt it necessary to come here today to provide you with this information. It is our intention to make a request to the governor to either pardon or commute the sentence of Mr. Peterson, so that when he recovers from this attack, he's not returned to a jail cell, but that he's allowed to go home and recover. Not long ago, Unite the People was approached by a gentleman named Bradley James. Mr. James informed us he was working as the bodyguard and driver for Ms. Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial. As such, he was in close proximity and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others. Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with Unite the People, and that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do. Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was a witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times, Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun. This statement aligns with the statement of the only non-party witness to the case, Mr. Sean Kelly, who at trial testified he saw 2 women fighting, 2 men break up the fight, 1 man grabbed the other one's arm. Gunshots came from the passenger side. The passenger side is where Ms. Harris was sitting. This further iterates that Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, did not shoot at Miss Pete, or did not assault Miss Pete. It's just another irregularity in a list of irregularities in this case. For example, there were 3 potential suspects in the car that night, and yet the only DNA sample was taken of Mr. Peterson, even though unknown DNA was found on the gun. Why wasn't Miss Harris's DNA taken? Or was it taken and the information simply never given to the defense? Why wasn't the driver of the car, Mr. Jaquan Smith's DNA taken? Or was it taken and again, simply not given to the defense? We don't know. It should have been taken. It is Unite the People's understanding, regular LAPD practice at a crime scene like that, anybody who's there, the DNA is taken. Another irregularity. Why, at Ms. Harris's police interview, was a non-lawyer, non-family member record company executive allowed to participate? Highly irregular situation. Normally, we see cases, strangers are not allowed in these things, but it was in this case. All of these things point to the highly irregular nature of his trial and his conviction. It is our contention that he was wrongly convicted. And while We at first were willing to let the process play out. It is our contention now that if he is not pardoned or released promptly, he may never come out. And that would be the ultimate injustice, is that he gets killed in prison for something he did not do. At this time, I'd like to bring up Mr. Gianno Caldwell, the media member who was working on that op-ed for the New York Post. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Good morning. Thank you for coming today. My name is Gianno Caldwell. That is spelled G-I-A-N-N-O, Caldwell, C-A-L-D-W-E-L-L. I am the founder of the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety at caldwellinstitute.org. I am also a member of the press for almost a decade now. I've been looking into Daystar Peterson's case for almost 6 months now, professionally known as Tory Lanez. And after reviewing the evidence, the reporting, and the legal analysis, I've come to the conclusion that Tory Lanez was railroaded by the former district attorney, George Gascon. He was also wrongly convicted. I believe if Jesus Christ was Tory Lanez's attorney, George Gascon would do whatever in his power to ensure that Tory Lanez lost that case. Tory Lanez's defense team have alleged the withholding of exculpatory evidence, prosecutorial misconduct, among other issues that I was compelled to write an opinion piece for the New York Post. It is true that last week, the New York Post editors reached out to 3 parties, one being George Gascon, Megan Pete's team, and Kelsey Harris. It is also true that Megan's team was the only ones that responded back for that request for comment. I had some glaring questions, and that was the reason for this op-ed. Things didn't make any sense to me, many issues in this case, and I was shocked by the lack of interest from the media to ask very simple questions. There were multiple people with gunshot residue on their hands that night. Why didn't all individuals have the residue tested, their DNA tested on the weapon? That's a legitimate question. According to the prosecution, Tory was excluded from the clip of the gun, and according to Tory's defense team, they said DNA analysis showed that there was a 0.01% chance that Tory touched the actual gun itself. Another piece that stood out to me, the call that the prosecution alleged Tory made confessing to a crime. I listened to that call. I'm sure many of you have as well. I didn't hear a confession. But what really shocked me about it is if my best friend was shot maliciously by someone just 2 to 3 hours before, I wouldn't have answered the call, or if I did, I wouldn't calmly have a conversation with the individual of it. And certainly I would ask, why did you shoot my friend? And more importantly, I would never have given you my current location out of fear of you finishing the job. That was something that stood out to me. I also, in my op-ed, discussed Kelsey Harris pleading the Fifth Amendment. She wasn't accused of anything by Megan Pete or the police, and to my knowledge, she wasn't under any investigation. So why plead the Fifth? What also shocked me is the prosecution gave her immunity. For what? What did she do? Is there an allegation of her doing something? I'm not aware of that. Maybe some of you can answer that question today. During the time of trial, George Gascon, just to take you back to where we were at that particular point, he had just barely won a recall attempt. He lost support in many key demographics of voters. Crime was up in Los Angeles County. And this case would have been a silver bullet for him potentially winning. His policies obviously were bad and people were harmed. So that didn't happen, and thank God it didn't happen. At the heart of this injustice is the misuse of gun enhancement charges, a sentencing tool intended for the most dangerous and violent offenders. In Tory Lanez's case, these enhancements were not supported by evidence. But George Gascon, interestingly enough, who is someone who regularly would drop enhancements or not recommend them, chose to provide enhancements to Tory. And in his case, in any given situation, according to legal analysts I've spoken with, he would do 1 or 3 years if he did it without the enhancement. That's interesting. Why did George Gascon choose to pursue these enhancements? You know, there's cases I've been looking through which George Gascon has pursued, many in which he utilized these enhancements. A couple come to mind that I would like to reference here. One, Raymond Danger Gonzalez, a Mexican mafia gang member involved in a premeditated murder of 2 young men in 2017. Despite the brutality of the crime, Gascon didn't recommend enhancements. You premeditated murdered a teenager and another individual, brutal crime. Why would you recommend enhancements, but you would recommend them for Tory? That doesn't make a lot of sense. He also didn't pursue sentencing enhancements for the senseless murder of General Hospital actor Johnny Victor in Los Angeles in 2024. There's a lot of issues with this case. Many, I think, that the media should be pursuing all angles of it. We should not allow there to be unanswered questions. We should pursue open questions without fear or favor to anyone. That includes Mr. Tory Lanez. In his letter from the Birmingham jail, Dr. Martin Luther King wrote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If we take those words seriously, we must act when injustice is allowed to fester in plain sight." I founded the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety after my innocent teenage brother was murdered in Chicago on June 24, 2022. I stand firmly for public safety, for victims' rights, and for holding criminals accountable. But justice also demands that we protect the innocent and stand against politically motivated prosecutions. This is what I believe to happen here. When we imprison the innocent while violent offenders walk free, which is what George Gascon has often done, we undermine the very foundation of our legal system. Mr. Peterson was never given a fair trial, free from bias, political interference, and media-driven pressure. His continued incarceration erodes public trust and diverts focus from the real work of keeping our community safe. Further, while incarcerated, Mr. Peterson was recently stabbed in prison, as many of you know, a tragic incident that underscores the urgency of this situation and the risk to his life while this case remains unaddressed. Governor Newsom, I respectfully urge you to issue a pardon for Daystar Peterson, known as Tory Lanez, in a full and impartial review of his case. California must not be a state where justice is driven by headlines instead of evidence. And in the case of George Gascon, that was often the case. So I encourage everyone here to go to caldwellinstitute.org, CALDWELL, Institute, INSTITUTE.org, and sign the petition. This petition asks for the governor to pardon Tory Lanez. Thank you.